Hello and welcome back to Suspended Animation. I am your host, Dennis Patholkas, and this is Game of Thrones, Season 8, Episode 1, with no freaking title. I don't know how I feel about that, about not having a title. I don't know if that was by design or if they are just not caring at this point or what, but hey, what the hell. So I'm just going with the flow on that one. So before I get started on anything here, I'm going to say, if I can get this out of my way there, spoiler alert, I am going to spoil the crap out of this episode. If you haven't seen the episode, go and watch the episode, then come on back. This will be a video, and you can comment down below in the comment section. Thank you to Viking Bitch, who couldn't make it because she is out sick. So thank you very much, Viking Bitch, and get better. Wow. Yeah. So it was kind of funny. I was just mentioning here in the chat that while everyone else, was getting it at, I guess, 9 o'clock Eastern time, 6 o'clock Pacific time, DirecTV Now decided to post it 4 hours early and released it at, I guess it was 5 o'clock Eastern time is what they released it at. So that would have been, what was that, 3 o'clock? Excuse me, no, 2 o'clock my time. And I don't have DirecTV Now anymore. I actually just canceled it. And so I watched it on the East Coast feed from like everyone else did, at 6 o'clock. So, yeah. So let's get started on this thing. Why not? So we start off with a little boy running through a crowd of people, and he's running through the village and up and over all this kind of stuff, and there's ducks quacking and donkeys braying and all that kind of stuff, and he gets to a crowd of people, and we hear marching going on. We see spear tips going by because we can only see from the little boy's point of view. He's in the crowd. There's an opening, and he squeaks through, and we see him squeak past Arya, who's watching the Dothraki army coming through, and they've arrived into Winterfell at this point. And so a bunch of people are just watching as they're walking through, as they're marching through, and everyone's dead silent on this. So Daenerys, we see coming through along with Jon riding the horse, and we see that Arya sees Jon, and she's about to say something, and she doesn't. She remains quiet and lets them pass. And then we also see among them the Hound. She sees the Hound go past as well. And we see Tyrion and Varys riding inside the cart. And of course, Tyrion gives Varys a joke about not having any balls, so he wouldn't be able to freeze them off in the north there. Which Varys is like, that's, you don't like the short jokes. What makes you think I like the ballless jokes? And he goes, well, that's because I have balls. Yeah, that's great. Great reasoning there, Tyrion. Again, like I said, there's no cheering going on. There's nothing. And Jon even mentions it to Daenerys. He goes, yeah, they're not really going to dig us going through here because, they don't like seeing the gigantic army coming through Winterfell. And then we see the dragons come flying overhead, and everyone starts screaming and kind of, running for it. And the dragons make a little swoop over the top of the castle, and we see Sansa inside the castle watching them as they fly overhead. So they end up entering in, and Jon sees Bran and goes over and hugs him, and then his sister Sansa, of course, and he asks about Arya, and Sansa says she's lurking around here someplace. I don't know where she's at. So he introduces her to Daenerys, and they're doing all these formal things, and Bran's like, we don't have time for these formalities. He goes, the wall has fallen. He goes, they've taken over one of your dragons. It's now the Night King's, and the Night King's army is marching north at this point. It's coming south, anyway, I should say, from the north. And we're pretty much screwed, and we need to get this stuff on the road, is what he says. So they're in court. They're holding council, if you will. And they're taking care of little nicety things. Like one of the kids asks if they can get more carts to transport people, and they're like, sure, you can have as many carts as you need, as many carts as we have to transport people and things like that. And this is when Lyanna, who of course is queen of one of the houses, gets up there and calls out John and basically says, "You abdicated we made you king of the North, and you gave your crown to her. What the fuck," kind of thing. And he says, "No, no, no, wait a minute." He goes, um, he had a choice: either keep his crown or protect the North, and he decided to protect the North. That's what he wanted to do. And Tyrion gets up, of course, and says, "Oh yeah, and by the way, the Lannister army is also coming north to join us to help." And they're like, "What?" And he's like, "Yes, I know we didn't get along. We've been on each other's throats before, but Cersei wants to save her neck just as well, as we do. So that's why they're joining up." And then Sansa's like, "Oh, that's great. So, we had enough food for us for Winterfell." She goes, "I wasn't counting on the Dothraki army, the Lannister army, and 2 dragons. And by the way, what do dragons eat?" And I like Daenerys says, "Anything they want." Yeah. So very interesting conversation that we have going on here. Oh, man. So we see Tyrion goes up to go and talk to Sansa. And remember, they haven't talked since Joffrey's wedding, where Joffrey got poisoned and Sansa made a run for it because it looked like she was the guilty party on this one. And she's now the Lady of Winterfell, of course. And she says that, he says that really suits you, that name. And she says he is the hand of the king, hand of the queen at this point, and that also suits him as well. So, yeah, no prenup, exactly, Mufinobi. That's one of the things that should have been done. And Sansa asks if Tyrion really believes that Cersei sent her army north. And he kind of looks at her dumbfounded, and she goes, "I used to think you were smart at one point." And she walks away from him, leaving him with his jaw kind of dropped open. That he never even considered that Cersei would not honor her word, which that's all Cersei has never done, is she has not honored her word. So come on. Yeah, she called him on it and just walked away from him. It was kind of interesting. So we see Jon standing outside there, and Arya sneaks up on him, and they embrace and talk about what's happened, and they trade, swords. She shows him that she still has her sword, and he shows her his sword that he has made of Valyrian steel, and she goes, she's a little bit jealous, of course, of it, but she says it's too big for her. And he mentions about Sansa thinking that she's smarter than everyone else, and Arya goes, "She is the smartest person that I know." And he says, no, he goes, "You don't understand. I'm in this for the family. I'm trying to protect the family." She goes, "We're all trying to protect the family. That's what this is all about." So, yeah, defending the family is what this is all about. So we see Cersei getting the news from Qyburn that the dead have broken through the wall, and she's like, "Good, that's great." And we see that the Iron Fleet is just sitting there at King's Landing, not moving, and not going off the coast, of course. And we see that Euron, is talking to his niece, Yara, and she's tied up still in the ship, and he's basically saying that, basically that he wants to screw the queen is what he wants to do. He's bored at the moment, and if she basically told him, "You've bet on the wrong horse. You have backed the wrong side." He goes, "Well, if shit goes sideways, he goes, I'm going to take the fleet someplace else and be done with it." He goes, "Basically, all I want to do is fuck the queen." And Mufinobi says, "Well, the needle made out of Valyrian steel too?" "Yes, it is." So we'll get to that in a little bit here. So, so Cersei ends up meeting with Euron and Captain Strickland. So Captain Strickland, of course, has the Golden Company, and they're going over how big of their army that they have, and they really don't have that big of an army. They have 2,000 horses, no elephants, about 5,000 men. It's really not a lot, quite honestly. And I think this is going to screw them over in the long run. So, of course, after Captain Strickland leaves, we see, that excuse me, I also lit, kind of blocked. Well, my brain just kind of went off there. Euron wants to talk to the queen, of course, about getting between her legs. She goes, later, after the war is over with. He goes, wars can last years. He goes, I'm talking about the right now. And she goes, you know what? I've had people killed for less of what you've been saying here. And yes, the mountain was cock blocking, was actual cock blocking at that point, because he walks towards her and the mountain steps in between her and Cersei's. And she says, she finally kind of looks over at him. She thinks about it, then looks over at him, and it's like, okay, come on. And he walks past the mountain and stares directly into the mountain's eyes, which I was like, man, this guy is fucking ballsy. Just really, really ballsy. Yeah. So in the meantime, we see Bronn getting interrupted with his horrors, who are talking about these guys getting burned by dragon fire as they are trying to screw Bronn. And Bronn's like, I really don't want to talk about this while we're doing this kind of thing. And Qyburn comes in and says, oh, the queen has a mission for you, basically. So he sends out the horrors, and Qyburn says, if her brothers, basically Cersei wants to know that if her brothers, her traitorous brothers, survive what's happening, they want Bronn to go and kill him. And Bronn's like, what do I get for this, for killing traitorous brothers, kind of thing. And we really don't get that kind of an answer. But he does get a crossbow. He gets a really nifty looking crossbow out of it. So we see the aftermath of Euron and Cersei's coupling, I guess you could say. And he has the nerve to ask her, he goes, so how do I compare to your dead husband? He goes, and how do I compare to your brother? She goes, shit like that? She goes, again, I would kill somebody if, somebody that asked me those questions. She goes, but you? She goes, I kind of find the arrogance, that's what I like about you on that. And she goes, but I want to be alone now, so get the hell out, kind of thing. Yeah, exactly. Bronn is friends with both of them as well. So that is the crossbow that Tyrion used to kill his father. That's why they were shown in the flashback sequence. Sorry, I missed that part. I actually had it written down here too. So we see Theon and his men jump aboard the ship that Yara is being held captive on. They kill all these guys. They get to her, and he cuts her free. And the first thing she does is headbutt him and knocks him down. And he looks at her, and she gives her hand, to him and brings him back up. And they're on board the ship. And she says, well, what are you going to do now? He goes, I follow you. You're my queen. I'll follow you, whatever you want to do. And she goes, you want to help the Starks, don't you, at Winterfell? And he's like, yeah, I do. That's what we should be doing. And she goes, well, then go. Go and help them. She goes, that's not where I'm going. So we see Tyrion, Varys, and Davos looking at the new group of men that have come through, the new house, the Castarks have come in. And they start talking about what may come if they actually do survive all of this. And they don't know exactly what Daenerys will do, quite honestly. If she will be a benefit or a hindrance to everything that's going on. So in the meantime, Daenerys gets word that the dragons are barely eating. And she goes over with Jon, and they take a look. Excuse me. And she said they don't like the North. That's the reason why they're not eating. And then she convinces Jon to get on one of the dragons to ride him. And he's like, well, what do I hang on to? She goes, whatever you can. And so he grabs onto some horns, and the dragon takes off. She takes off on the other one. And they basically play a little chase game where they're flying over the Winterfell lands, and they're swooping and stuff like that. Yeah, Mufino, you're going to hear kids. They are out there screaming around all over the place. So unfortunately, that's what you're hearing. Oh, yeah. A lovely place that I live in, So, and so they end up going out to this really out-of-the-way remote spot and get off the dragons. And Daenerys actually says, we could live here for 1,000 years. No one would ever know. And he goes, yeah, but that would be really old, is what Jon says. And she says, well, I'm cold, and you know how to warm up your queen. And so, yeah, he kisses her. They make out a little bit, and the dragons are staring right at Jon. And Jon's like, and Daenerys is like, don't mind them. Just, keep doing what you're doing, kind of thing. Yeah. So there we go. Oh, you guys have heard the ice cream truck too, haven't you? Yes. The ice cream truck that plays Christmas music in the middle of April. Yeah. There we go. So we end up seeing Gendry making dragon glass weapons, and he makes a badass axe out of dragon glass for the Hound. And the Hound is just giving Gendry shit, saying that all he's become now is an errand boy. He goes, when you make weapons for the wildlings, all you are is shit, kind of thing. And that's when Arya pops up and goes, that's kind of funny, you talking like that. She goes, I left you for dead. Or no, he goes, you left me for dead, is what the Hound says. She goes, well, I robbed you first. He goes, you've turned into quite the little bitch, is what he says, and he walks away. And she basically just put him in his place and knocked him down. And she tells Gendry, she gives him some plans and says, I have a weapon I want you to make from this Valyrian steel. So she's basically going to take the needle, which is made of Valyrian steel, and have it melted down and made into another weapon. So yeah, really kind of cool. Sansa, in the meantime, meets up with Jon, and they're talking about the House Glover will not show up. And they argue about him giving up the crown, why he gave up the crown. And he says he brought 2 armies and 2 dragons. That's the reason why he gave up the crown, to help the North. That's what this has always been about. He says it was never about him wearing the crown or being king. And she is still arguing about this. And then she asks him point blank, she goes, did you take the knee to save the North, or because you love her? And we don't get an answer, because there's a knock at the door before we get a chance to get an answer. Saved by the knock at the door. So then we see Jorah and Daenerys going to visit Samwell, because Samwell was the one that found out about the dragon glass, of course, and that it kills walkers. White walkers, not walkers, white walkers. There we go. It might kill walkers too. You just stab them through the eye. That's a different show altogether. And she asks him what she can give him for, as a reward for finding this. And he says, I want to be pardoned because I stole some books from the library. And I also stole the sword from my father, because it would have been mine anyway, but I had to steal it early because I needed to use it for something. But my father's pretty pissed about it. And that's when she breaks the news. Yeah, your father wouldn't bend the knee, so he had to die. And he goes, well, it's going to be awkward between me and my brother when we talk about this. And she goes, your brother stood with your father as well, and he's dead too. And Samwell's like, what the fuck? Yeah, it is his sword now. Exactly. Samwell is now owner of that sword. And he is welling up with tears and saying, excuse me, but can I leave? And she's like, sure, go for it. And so he leaves. He's just, devastated because his family is gone now at this point. He is the only person in his family. He's the one that carried on the name, even though he was giving up that name. And he runs into Bronn. And Bronn says, this is the time now. We need to tell Jon who he really is, who his parents really are. And Samwell's like, really? Now? And he was like, yes, now we need to tell him. You need to do this. So we see Jon down in the catacombs. He is visiting the graves of his family, of course, and Samwell stumbles over something announcing his presence, and they embrace, and Sam just comes out and he goes, did you know Daenerys had my family executed, my brother and my father executed? And Jon's like, what? And yeah, he tells they were prisoners. They were her prisoners, and she had them executed. And Jon, of course, does not know anything about this. And Sam asks, he goes, would you have done this? And he goes, what are you talking about? He goes, I've had plenty of people executed as king. He goes, no, king of the 7 realms. This is how he brings it up and says, if you were king of the 7 realms, would you have had my family executed? He goes, what do you mean? And then he tells them, he says, you're actually the child of Aegon Targaryen and Lyanna Stark. So you are the king of the 7 realms, the rightful king. Nobody else is at this point. And you basically just gave up your crown to the 7 kingdoms to Daenerys. And Jon says, you know what, I did this to protect the people. And at one point, he's also saying, "Well, Ned lied to me," basically, is what he says. And Sam's like, "No, no, no. Ned promised to protect you. He didn't lie to you. He just was protecting you, and that's the reason why he didn't tell you who your true family were, who your true parents were, because he was protecting you until you were of age, basically." And then Sam asks, "Would Daenerys give up the crown to save her people like you did?" And it's a good question, because when everything is said and done, is Daenerys going to give up the rightful crown to the the seven kingdoms, or are we going to have another all-out war? Yeah, exactly. Would she? I don't know. Excuse me, I had a little gnat there. In the meantime, we've got Beric and Tormund and a couple of guys in the aftermath of the fall of the wall, and they're kind of roaming around through the what's left of the Night Watch chateau, if you will. And they're walking through these corridors in the dark looking for walkers, these white walkers. And they hear some footsteps, and they all kind of jump off to the side, and they're waiting. And this group comes around the side, and they yell, and like, ah, and they go for each other, and they find another group of Night Watch. And I love how the guy goes, "He's got blue eyes, kill him." And Tormund's like, "I've always had blue eyes, you stupid asshole." Yeah. And they go, "Have you seen anything?" And of course, they lead him to the mess hall. And we see the boy. This is the Umber boy. He's pinned to the wall, along with severed arms and legs, making a pinwheel around his body as he's pinned to the wall. And they're like, "Yeah, looks like the Night King had left us a message. I don't know what it is." And all of a sudden, the Umber boy comes to life with the shocking blue eyes and screams and is going to kill Tormund. And that's when Beric's flaming sword comes out and just stabs the boy and lights him on fire, and lights the pinwheel as well on fire, and gets everything settled there. And finally, we have Jaime. Jaime gets to Winterfell finally, and he dismounts from his horse. And who does he see across the courtyard, staring at him intently, but Bran. Bran and Jaime, where this whole shit show all started from. And that's where we leave off in the episode. So yeah, it was a good way of kind of tying everything back to the beginning again without having to really belabor the points, I guess you could say. They kind of hit everything they needed to hit very, very quickly and then moved on. I did like it. Legendary Milk. Night King has a weird sense of how emotes work. Pretty damn funny. Balzac's Coxer. Is there a new promo to season 8, episode 2? Yes, there is. There was at the very end of the episode. And Jaime is not going to be in a good place. Let's just say that. Remember, his family was the one that killed Ned Stark. He was the one that was the reason for Ned Stark's death. And North does not forget. So there we go. Joker the Third movie. Jaime wants to die in someone's arms he truly loves. Maybe Brienne? Possibly. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see this love triangle between Jaime, Tormund, and Brienne. It's going to be very interesting. So let me see what else we've got going on here. I'm going to scroll up a little bit in the chat. And thank you, everybody, for coming in and, watching me recap this and everything. So it's a lot of fun. Excuse me. Let's see. Let's scroll up a little bit. Dragon glass loaded carts came with them. Oh, that's right. The dragon glass. That's right. They did bring the dragon glass with them from the Targaryen house. That's right. I forgot about that. Yes, and I don't have DirecTV anymore. My subscription just ended on April 11th, and I couldn't be happier. So, all right. And yes, some of the episodes are supposed to be longer. I believe next week's is supposed to be an hour and 20 minutes, if I'm not mistaken. So some are supposed to be like, you know, an hour and a half. Some are going to be an hour. It's just very weird. Let's see. What else do we have? The mountain is almost cock. He was cock blocking Mufinobi. He really was, but that was because Cersei was telling him to. And yes, Bronn being friends with both the Lannisters that he needs to kill, Jaime and Tyrion, and using the crossbow that Tyrion used to kill his father, that's just fucking evil on Cersei's part altogether. But we already knew this. Cersei is, it's the last, the last season. They are going to be done with this. She is going to go out as evil as possible is what I'm thinking on this. What else do we have here? As I'm going through, Legendary Milk says, I hope Jaime won't be killed, but I feel like all but Tyrion will want him dead. I have a feeling that Tyrion's going to be the one that kills him. He's going to have no other choice, but he's going to have to kill him. Yeah. Balzac's Coxer says the symbol is what's around the Godswood tree. Oh, that's right. That was the symbol around the Godswood tree. It's the face with the pinwheel around it. I forgot about that. Good call on that one. Nice. It really is. And I don't know if anyone's going to know that except for Bronn, because Bronn is the one that, Bran, not Bronn. Bran is the only one that's going to know that. Mufinobi says, Father of Dragons, ruler of the Seven Kingdoms. That means he can only survive. He can only half survive in fire, but then again, he was risen by the fire god. Yeah, that was the other thing too that he told Arya. She says, "I heard you were stabbed." And he goes, "And how did you survive it?" He goes, "I didn't." And she doesn't bat an eye about that. So, well, she already knew what had happened. She knew that he'd been brought back. She'd heard the story, so she knew all about that. But yeah, it's very interesting. I mean, there's a lot of different things in motion right now. So he gave up his kingship, but he only gave it up to the north, but he didn't know that he was also true ruler of the Seven Kingdoms. So knowing that, is he going to try and take it back from Daenerys? And will Daenerys just give it to him, or is she going to fight him on this? And then is that going to interrupt the, everything that they've got going on in order to fight the White Walkers that are coming and the Night King? Because they're going to need this group of people that they have that they're putting together. We saw what the White Walkers look like. I mean, their army is huge. And by the way, I don't know if anyone noticed the opening credits, how they changed a bit. So we had the wall down, and then we had the White Walkers path through the kingdoms, and then Winterfell and went underground and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, there we go. And I did love Euron telling Cersei that he was going to put a prince in her belly, and she just kind of looked at him like, yeah, get the fuck out. I'm done with you. Legendary Milk says melted metal is a bit different than fire, though. Yes, this is true. Yeah, the opening credits are just awesome. They did a good job on that one. Man, Belzak says not all Targaryen can survive fire. Viserys is a good example for this. Oh, that's right. Yeah, not all of them can. Slurmy Scott says Daenerys will marry Jon, and the dragons will love their children. End of series. And everyone will live happily ever after. Yeah, Cersei will pass off another baby as someone else's. Oh, man. Cameron Bennett. Cersei dies early. Jon and Daenerys fight, and the Golden Company back Jon because of Targaryen tie, maybe. I don't think Cersei's going to die early, to tell you the truth. She's hanging back right now. She doesn't have the army to do anything right now. We already saw the Golden Company doesn't have that many people, and she's got nobody at the moment except for them. And I love how she was kind of almost like a little pouty child. She was like, I really wanted the elephants. I really did want the elephants. I thought that was kind of funny. Legendary Milk says if Danny and John just marry, then she will be still be a queen. Yeah, she would still be the queen, but I don't know if that's all she wants. You know, we don't know exactly what her intentions are, what she wants. She wants to free everybody, but at the same time, John wants to do that same thing. He has that same mindset that she does. So I don't know if she realizes that or what, but who knows? Balzac says, Balaz, excuse me, Balaz. I keep saying Balzac. So it's from the Orc book that I've got back here. Balaz Coxer says, in my opinion, this episode was only a recap of what happened. The storylines and the characters have met. Now the show can begin. Exactly. It was melding together what we saw at the end of season 7 with season 1. And everything has come home to, the chickens have come home to roost, as they say. Yeah. And now we can actually get on with the main story. Movie Finobi says, the only problem with the truth bomb is whether there's enough written proof. Not everyone might believe Bronn's vision. True. But we do have what Samwell brought up. So the paperwork that he has. And everything pretty much points to him being the offspring of those two. Cameron Bennett says, would have been cool to see the undead giants fight war elephants. Yeah, it would have. It would have been really cool. And we might still see it. Who knows? We don't know what the Dothraki brought with them. So Pen Farm Girl says, I was surprised that John rode the dragon already. Yeah, I did. I love how the dragon was just kind of staring at her when he was kissing her. That was pretty funny. Yeah, but in the paperwork, there's nothing about John. True, there's nothing about John, but we did know that she was pregnant at some point in time. So, all right, good night, Movie Finobi. I'm actually going to wrap stuff up here, too. The Rebel says, this episode was so cringy that my stomach is still hurt. Oh, okay. Actually, I was okay with it. It didn't do, I thought it was okay. Yeah, I did love how Daenerys basically told John, you know, he goes, what happens if I fall off? She goes, well, then you'll be sorely missed, kind of thing. So, yeah. So with that said, if you like what you see, hit the subscribe button. Also, I asked you hit the like button as well. If you don't like what you see, hit the dislike button. But I asked if you hit the dislike button, go down in the comment section. Tell me what you didn't like. Give me some constructive criticism. Also, if you want to know when I'm going to be on live next again, you can hit the little bell down there. If you've already hit the bell, don't hit it again. It will unclick it. You can actually go into the bell and hit the settings and see how often it is that you want to get notifications from me. You can also go to suspendedfanimation.com. That is my website, and see my schedule is up there. Right now, I go week by week. So I don't have next week's schedule up, but starting tomorrow, because I was doing this on Tuesdays, but it's actually supposed to be on Mondays, The Tick is going to be on at 6:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So season 2, episode 2 is tomorrow, and Wednesday nights is going to be Happy. Thursday nights, we have Gotham. Gotham comes back for the last 2 episodes. Friday is Doom Patrol. Saturday, of course, is Saturday Morning Blast Off, where I take the genre news of the week and talk all about that, plus anything other genre stuff that you guys want to talk about. And Sundays, of course, we have Game of Thrones. So there we go. And I'm also on Facebook. You can find that whole schedule up on Facebook as well. And I'm on Twitter, and I'm on Instagram as well. And if you go to my website, you can find email. So you can email me if you want to ask me questions as well. So Happy, Gotham, Doom Patrol. Yeah, I know. It's a lot of stuff, Pen Farm Girl. It's a lot of stuff. Game of Thrones, The Tick, Happy, Gotham, Doom Patrol. Yeah, it's a lot of stuff. Like I said, there's a lot of stuff out there on TV and just not enough time to watch it all. If you're still on the fence also about joining up, you're going to see a video come up here. It's going to pluck a video from my video library and show you one right up here. And if you like what you see, then you can hit the subscribe button over in this area. So with that said, I want to say thank you to everybody who's in the chat here. We've got Balaz Coxer, Cameron Bennett, Edward Brewer, Joker III, Legendary Milk, Movie Finobi, Pen Farm Girl, Slurming Scott, and The Rebel. Thank you all for joining. That was awesome. And of course, come on back tomorrow night or next week. And yes, I am over 200 subscribers now. Thank you all for subscribing. It's a lot of fun. And I'm working on Patreon as well. Like I said, work has just gotten crazy busy. There's some stuff that's going on that is taking up a lot of my time at the moment. So with that said, I'm going to let you guys go. Take a look at the videos up here. Hit the subscribe button over this way. And don't let the door hit your ass on the way out. Otherwise, you may find yourself on the back of a dragon that just kind of wants to buck you off because he doesn't want you to kiss his mom. Thanks, everybody. Good night.